Mother Knows Death, starring Nicole and Jemmy and Maria QK.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Mother Knows Death. Let's get started with the story of the day.
Nothing like starting the show out with a real disturbing one, right? So, in Thailand, this guy was in the woods and came upon this decorated tree, but it's not really a decorated tree like we're used to seeing with ornaments or lights. It had underwear on it.
Yeah, and they called it the masturbation tree.
Yeah, so basically what happened is, this guy found this tree, he ended up calling the cops, and this led them to this 27-year-old guy who admitted that he was drunkenly stealing people in his surrounding area's underwear and then hanging them up on the tree. He would then go up to them and sniff them as he masturbated, and then when they got rid of the scent from the owner, he would then discard of them. So, extra disgusting.
How do you just have access to people's underwear? Like, if that was someone in my neighborhood, it just wouldn't be that easy to go around house to house and get people's underwear.
Well, apparently people had been reported their underwear missing for a while, but I would never notice if a pair of my underwear went missing. I would just assume I lost it during travel or, things just go places in your house that you don't even realize.
I wouldn't know either because I seriously have 25 pairs of the same exact pair of panties. So I just would have no idea if one were missing. But I guess like back in the day when I was a kid, we used to hang our clothes outside to dry. I know a lot of people still do that now, including underwear and stuff if people don't have a dryer. So it could be a situation like that where there's people hanging clothes on the clothesline. That's the only thing I could think because then it's easy. You could just go in someone's yard and take their underwear.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to assume it's something along those lines because he was charged with theft, but I feel like if he was breaking into people's houses and stealing their underwear, that would be a whole other set of charges. But I don't know. He's facing up to 5 years in jail for stealing people's underwear.
Well, he didn't have it's not like it was all teenage girls or something like that. It was just like whoever's. Dudes in the neighborhood, older people, just he had no preference, And anyway, this is actually another point. If you're stealing someone's underwear from their clothing line, then like it's kind of already clean anyway and shouldn't really have much of the person's scent on it. They're not really dirty.
I don't know. Maybe
that's like the bigger question here is where was he just having access to dirty underwear all the time?
I don't know. It's extremely disturbing. The pictures of it are unbelievable. Imagine of course you're going to call the cops when you come across something like that in the middle of the woods. it just reeks of
There's definitely a story. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Celebrity news.
So last week, Dave Coulier had announced that he had stage 3 non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. And he learned of this diagnosis after he apparently was suffering from a bad cold and then noticed he had swelling in his groin area. So that got all this buzz last week about that. And then earlier this week, his co-star from Full House, John Stamos, posted this, photo shoot they did where John Stamos seriously sat in a makeup chair for probably a couple of hours and had a bald cap on to, stand by his buddy that had to shave his head due to cancer treatment.
This is like the douchiest thing ever. I'm glad that all the comments when what was it, people posted it on their Instagram, the comments are just amazing.
The top comment was like cringe at the highest level, which I 100% agree with. I mean, I think everybody was, together in saying, we understand that you're trying to stand by your friend, but this was like the douchiest, most Hollywood way to go about it. And I don't think anybody's even asking him to shave his head. It's just the point that you went so far out of your way to do something like this. And then Dave Coulier is defending him, saying that they're comedians and he really got a kick out of it. And if it doesn't bother him, it shouldn't bother us. But I don't think a lot of other cancer patients feel that way. So,
yeah, I mean, to say you're doing it in solidarity is just, it's insulting, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, you have to understand you're going to get backlash when you do something like this. I mean, not to be a total dick, but like the picture looks so ridiculous. The makeup, the bald cap just looks so weird. And I don't know what he was trying to accomplish with it.
There's this show that the girls watch on, I don't know if it's on Netflix or whatever. It's one of those teenage drama shows, and it's about a girl that has cancer. And they have them wearing fake bald caps and all this. And I just feel like it's kind of tacky or something. It's just like something you shouldn't touch. Right?
Yeah,
The
or
whole
you know,
pretending to have I don't know, just like it bothers me. And I'm like a huge Full House person, so I know everything about all these people in the show and everything. And he was always in the show talking about how great his hair was and how perfect his hair was. And you're thinking when you're looking at this, like, dude, if you really wanted to stand in solidarity with your friend, like, you couldn't have just shaved your head. You're a guy. It would have grown back in 3 months. Like, relax, right? You're that vain, you know?
well, yeah, I don't know. I think to what you're saying, like a lot of people argue that with the Hollywood industry in general, like why wouldn't you give that role to an actual cancer patient, or does this actually have to be portrayed in movies and cinema? I think if you want these storylines to be realistic, sometimes it's going to happen, but you just have to think like he wasn't doing a project trying to make this statement for cancer. He was doing this photo shoot for social media, which is just kind of weird.
Yeah, it is. So let's talk about his cancer a little bit. B-cell lymphoma that he was diagnosed with. So B cells are part of your immune system, and they're usually there to take away bacteria or any germs that get inside of your body. And then when they're done doing their job, they die off. But in the case of lymphoma, these cells can end up growing abnormally, and they proliferate, or they grow and grow really, really fast. And what happens is they don't die off, and then they could end up spreading to other areas of the body. So they give chemotherapy to prevent the spread from happening. And unfortunately, because we were just talking about those cells that grow really fast and there's a lot of them, the same kind of fast growing cells are present in the follicle of where your hair growth is. And that could also kill those cells off too, which is why people lose hair sometimes that are taking certain chemotherapies. So, he has stage 3. It's pretty serious. They said it was pretty aggressive, and hopefully he does okay. They could have just like left this all alone, and I don't know, but it's just another example how these Hollywood people are just completely out of touch with reality.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so it's finally Wicked Week. I'm sure everybody's been seeing the commercials. I was excited for this movie. I never saw the musical. I'm getting a little exhausted with the amount of advertising and interviews and everything with it. But out of all these interviews came one funny tidbit. So Cynthia Erivo, who's playing Elphaba in this movie, she went on Armchair Expert earlier this week, and Dak Shepard asked her, because of her really notoriously, or not notoriously, but her really famous long fingernails, how does she wipe when she goes to the bathroom? And she is annoyed by the question because apparently it comes up very often.
I don't know. I know that you're like all into this movie. I'm just kind of like, these people are fucking annoying to me as shit. Like,
Well, I don't understand why they're crying in every
I just can't. I just can't. They're both of them. I just don't. I just am like not interested. But you know, it's a valid question. People ask it to me sometimes because I have really long nails too. But do you wipe like your ass with your fingertips? Like, no, it's just you just put a ball of toilet paper in your hand and you just cover your nails just like you do with your natural nails. It's just not that big of a deal.
Can it puncture through though? Because
But
yours
how
and hers
far
are really
are you wiping?
I don't know.
I don't know. I've never had that happen before. It's just completely ridiculous, like, to even bring it up. But you know, acrylic nails are you know that you're not allowed to have them if you work in the hospital, right?
Or the food industry.
Yeah, because there have been studies done, because obviously there's a lot of people that want to wear them, so they do studies to prove that they're actually harboring disease. But they definitely have found that they carry the organisms more than natural fingernails, and even natural fingernails that are painted. So you're not allowed to have them if you work in the hospital. I mean, I always had them, and I worked in the lab, but that was kind of different because I didn't really actually see patients that I could have got sick or whatever. But so yeah, I mean, they're there, and they can get dirt under them and stuff, and the longer they are, obviously. But it is kind of an annoying question. I guess I could agree with her there. I just can't even function without them. They're like my thumb's like a utility knife. I can't type if I don't have them. It's just like, so you just get used to it, and you just wipe the same way everybody else does. It's just not that big of a deal.
Well, I think I was asking this question when we had the story 2 weeks ago about the woman with the world's largest fingernails.
Well, hers were 24 inches long,
And
You know what I mean? Like
so
they
somebody-
curled and then you would say that, yeah.
So somebody actually left us a comment and said that they were in fact 24 feet. It was not a typo. It was the way they were curled up that it didn't seem obvious, but I guess when they cut them and then measured them out, that's what they were.
That absolutely cannot be right.
I'm just saying what somebody said.
Stand down and measure 24 feet out. That's really freaking far. Even if they were curled in like perfect spirals, you could see them. If you stretched it out, they would be the length of 2 rulers. There's no way. 24 feet is ridiculous.
Maybe they meant they were 24 feet collectively when they were all put together.
That could be possible. But like 24 feet is like a 2-story building. That's just higher than a 2-story building. It's just outrageous. Unless you're saying each one of them were cut off and then lined up in a row. But why would you measure like that way? That doesn't even make sense.
I understand that you're just so used to having them at this point. I mean, I feel like I can't have them again. I had gotten them for my wedding and kept them for a couple months after. They certainly were not as long as yours or Cynthia Revo's, but
hers are way longer than mine.
Yeah, but even putting my contacts in was horrible. Just doing normal things, like picking your nose, just trying to get ready, doing your hair. It's not good. So I'm gonna say I'm not gonna get them probably ever again. But let's move on to Jay Leno. So he has had his 3rd incident in like the last 2 years. This guy's 74 years old. He had a show in Pittsburgh on Friday night, and he said beforehand he went to go get dinner. And I guess he was taking some shortcut to the restaurant, which led him onto the 60-foot high hill, and he lost his balance and rolled down the hill.
This whole story is a little odd for me, okay? So he was staying at a Hampton Inn. Let's put this in perspective of what was happening. He was staying at a Hampton Inn, which I'm not talking shit on because it's probably my favorite hotel to stay at when we do road trips because they have free breakfast in the morning, honestly.
Maybe that's why he likes it too.
Okay, but he didn't have a car, and the hotel staff was telling him how to get to wherever he was trying to go, the restaurant or whatever. And he said it was going to be like a 1.5 mile walk. So he decided to take a shortcut and just walk across this really steep hill to get down there. And that's when he fell and hit his face on a bunch of rocks and stuff. But, like Jay Leno is worth $450 million.
But listen, you don't gotta tell me how much he's worth. I know how much he's worth.
So I mean, and listen, that might be why he has so much money because he's frugal. But like, you're staying at a Hampton Inn, you don't have a car. Like, what? That just doesn't even make sense to me.
You know how stubborn older men are. So I can totally see him being like, I need bare necessities. I'm not getting an Uber, or Ubler as Pop-Up likes to pronounce it. And I don't know.
It just sounds ridiculous, but whatever. The dude. Anybody would have fell down. I know exactly. Once you picture it, you're like, okay, I could see. That's why the staff didn't tell him to go that way, because you're not supposed to walk down that. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. So anyway, when he was falling, he hit a bunch of rocks. He hit his face. He hurt his eye. He broke his wrist. It said he lost a nail too, which is gross. But yeah, he said he had a show of 2,600 people that were waiting for him, and he didn't want to not show up. So he went to the show wearing an eye patch. And I saw a picture of him from, I guess, yesterday, and he has this enormous bruise down the side of his face.
The whole half of his body looks like it's purple. It's just so gnarly. It's just crazy because he didn't even... I mean, listen, like, I believe this because my dad's around the same age, and this would 100% happen. Like, you fell down a 60-foot cliff and hit your face on rocks, and you're all purple and you can't open your eye, and you just don't even tell anyone or get medical treatment. Like, he didn't even go to the hospital until he got back to LA.
Yeah, which, like, probably not wise. So,
I mean, my first thing would be like, okay, he's got some kind of a brain injury, which clearly I guess he doesn't because he's fine. But this guy has gotten his ass beat in the past couple of years. Remember, he burned himself really bad in his garage?
Yeah, he was working on a car, and I guess something caught on fire, and then caught him on fire, and he got really bad burns. And
like
then after
third-degree burns. That's really bad. He probably needed to get some skin grafts or something.
Yeah, and then after that, he crashed his motorcycle and ended up with a broken collarbone, 2 broken ribs, and 2 cracked kneecaps.
Yeah, this guy's like 9 lives over here.
He had 2 cracked kneecaps in the last 2 years. It was like, I'm going to walk down a 60-foot hill.
Do you think somebody's following him and beating him up? Like 2 cracked kneecaps sounds like an inside job kind of.
It's
With
definitely
like
a mob hit.
Yeah, exactly. That's what that sounds like. Speaking of mob hits, this has nothing to do with Mother Knows Death at all, but I read a story today that in Sicily that there was like this real Godfather situation happened that somebody put an amputated horse's head on top of a businessman's house or something like that, or out front of his house.
Oh my God. I saw that prop when we were in LA. I went to the Academy of the Arts Museum, whatever, the Oscars Museum. They had this whole Godfather exhibition, and they had the horse head prop.
Oh,
it was
really?
so cool.
Oh, that
Yeah.
is cool.
I was sending you pictures, but wherever you guys were
I
in the
don't read
desert,
half
you
my
weren't getting
text
them.
that you send me anyway.
I know, and you're missing some really hilarious content. So
I'm just joking. Me and Maria's like text group thing is ridiculous. And do you remember a couple years ago I by accident like deleted our whole entire text thing? You know how that happens sometimes?
yeah.
It like ruined my day. You know what I mean? Because I never delete my texts. I have so many texts in my phone. It's like for years and years and years so I could just go back and like read stuff.
Oh,
Really just to pull it up for blackmail. No, I'm just joking. But me and Maria's like, just do this today when we're done the show. Just sit there and go into the images of our conversation and just look at the pictures. It's so funny when you do that.
Yeah, because everybody will just be like, what the fuck? What the fuck? Like, you can't even imagine the variety of images in our chat history.
Yeah, like you just want to show people and be like, all right, what do you think this picture was about or something like that? All right, we're digressing. Freak accidents.
All right, so last month, this guy was driving his van through the San Bernardino mountains when suddenly these 2 boulders fell off of a cliff and crushed the car with him inside of it.
So I go on road trips sometimes and you see these signs that say, attention, falling rocks. Like, what the fuck are you supposed to do? I don't know. And that's so scary, right? But it's totally possible. I mean, you're driving through rocky mountains and they invest all this kind of money in to prevent that from happening. But this guy's lucky to be alive, honestly.
Yeah, he's lucky to be alive. And, so what ended up happening was there was people driving behind him that saw this happen. So they were quickly able to call to get him help. But it took rescuers hours to get him out of the car. He was saying that at the scene, they were considering amputating his leg because he was losing so much blood. He had, a traumatic brain injury happen from this. He eventually went to the hospital. They were able to save his leg, but he has to learn how to rewalk. But he is very thankful to be alive. And I guess because of the brain injury, he can't remember the accident at all or the 2 days before it.
Yeah, that's nuts.
Even though this horrible thing happened to you, at least you don't have, vivid memories of it. But he was also saying to the reporters that apparently they had been doing work on the cliff, I guess, and excavating rocks. So he thought it was okay because the road was open and he didn't think there would be any danger. But he thinks that might be contributing to what happened. So
yeah, you think?
Yeah.
God, that's so scary.
And what's really sad is he was planning on living in this van while he was moving a pretty far distance, I guess. And now he has no van. He's in the hospital. This happened, I think, a month ago, and he's still in the hospital. So
there were workers there, you're saying?
He said months before there was workers there, but because the road was open and clear, he didn't think anything about driving on it, and other cars were driving on it. So.
Yeah, I just was wondering if they were actively doing work on it, because then you have to think, like, is this something that could have been prevented,
Yeah, I don't know. And I agree with you. When you see those signs, it's like, if it's coming, it's coming. What are you doing? And you can't see what's coming above you unless you have a sunroof,
I just
guess.
don't. I always thought they were funny. I'm just like, what is the point of this exactly? Like, attention, falling rocks. Like, okay, so there's like this giant. It just makes me think of like a cartoon or something. This giant boulder that like an Indiana Jones boulder thing, just like coming down in front of you. Like you're on the road. Like, what can you do at that point?
Yeah, exactly. This episode is brought to you by Nicole and Jemmy's Anatomy book.
Guys, if you don't already have my book, you should get it. It's definitely a really cool conversation starter. It's a very pretty book that you could leave on your coffee table, and then someone will pick up and say, "What is this?" And then they open it and they're completely horrified but intrigued all at the same time. And then you definitely have something to talk about at Christmas parties, any kind of holiday parties or anything like that. So the book goes from its anatomy listed from A to Z, so all of your different body parts, and then a little example of anything that could go wrong with all of those body parts. And every case in the book was user submitted, so it's just real life stories and actual pictures, and it's just really awesome. I'm really proud of it.
It is the perfect little gift for the holidays. So if you want more info on how to order it, or if you want a personalized signed book plate, you can head over to thedoramater.com/book.
Okay, true crime.
Susan Smith. We talked about good old Susan back in July because she was trying to get paroled after she murdered her 2 children and said that, she had been like carjacked by this guy, but really she pushed the car into a lake and had strapped the kids in. So obviously she deserves to be in jail. So she had her parole hearing this week, and it was apparently getting all worked up and cried, but luckily the board unanimously decided that she was not ready to leave jail, which I think was the right call.
There's been this video circulating online about what her sons may have experienced. It was like a simulated video of what they would have experienced going into the water. I don't know if they showed that to people that were in charge of making this decision, but it's so disturbing that any person watching that would be like, this lady intentionally did this to her children. Like she should never get out of jail, ever.
I don't even know why she has the opportunity to go up for parole.
Yeah, I don't either. I don't remember what the circumstances were, but apparently, I mean, were they saying she was suffering from like postpartum psychosis or depression or something? Like, I don't even really think that was a thing back then. Like why she would have gotten a lesser sentence for something like that. I guess she was 22 when it happened, right?
I don't know exactly what their defense was, but obviously they proved she was guilty. And I believe the children's father, her ex-husband, showed up to the parole hearing and was like, she should not get out. And he had a really, good reasons for it, obviously.
Yeah.
And, now this guard that she was having sex with has come out and said that her tears are completely fake and that she's not capable of feeling that way naturally.
Well, yeah, she's just like one of these individuals that's broken that could never be fixed kind of thing.
Yeah, so this guard came out and said that she had given him oral sex 2 to 3 times, but she never asked for anything in return. How nice, I guess. He ended
good for him.
The prison got wind of this and then fired him, and he said it was not worth losing his job over her. So, as I would hope that everybody thinks that.
Okay. What's the next? I'm just like bored of talking about certain cases because you're just like, why? Like, why? We shouldn't even be discussing this. Like, you killed both your kids on purpose. Like, you should be in jail for the rest of your life.
Really quick, though, I noticed in her most recent mugshot that she looks like a little like Jodie Foster. I feel like she could play her well in a movie.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know. I just noticed the similarity and thought it would be a good casting call. So we'll see whatever happens. But let's get on to this next horrific story. So over the summer in Texas, police got a call to check on this child that was apparently hanging out of a broken apartment window, and there was a threat of an aggressive dog inside of the residence. So when police got there, they found this child alone in the apartment, just wearing a t-shirt, nothing else, and covered in feces and an extreme diaper rash. And, no adult was in sight, but there was 2 dogs in the residence as well.
So they got a call because nothing else except someone reported that there was a child hanging out of a broken window with dogs behind them.
Yeah.
So they show up and they come to this scene, and how did they figure out what was going on?
So basically they just, they were walking through the apartment and they realized, it was set up kind of weird. Like the kitchen was blocked off, certain doors were locked, but there was no adult there. So they were able to get a hold of the child's mother somehow. And then she said, well, I'm not around because I met this guy on Hinge and I traveled to go meet him. So that's
what's Hinge?
It's a dating app.
It's like
Match.com.
Tinder, yeah. Oh, it's like one of the ones, the like hookup site ones, or?
Yeah, I mean, you could use it for either or, as a hookup or dating app, whatever, but she met a guy on there and wanted to go meet him. So she left her child and seriously thought in the care of 2 dogs was going to be okay because she blocked everything off. So
the kid's 16 months old.
yeah, 16 months old.
That's
So
a
then-
baby.
A baby. So then they're like, you obviously need to come back here because we have more questions for you. And she said, no, I'm good. And then this was over the summer. So she never came back. And I guess they were having a hard time finding her. Eventually, she was located in California and they arrested her there and brought her back to Texas.
So then they interview her and she says, oh, I didn't leave him. Was it a him or her? I didn't
It
leave
was a him.
I didn't leave him home alone. I had a babysitter there that I had gotten on Facebook. So they found this woman that she said was the babysitter, right?
Yeah.
They go find her, and then this girl's like, I haven't babysat for her for a year, and then showed the messages between the two of them, and the last messages that were from December of 2023.
Yeah, this was serious, like Casey Anthony vibes to me, you know, like, oh, I thought she was with the babysitter, and then she completely fabricated this woman that didn't exist. I mean, this lady did exist, but she's like, I haven't talked to her in months and months and months. She is not putting this blame on me. So I don't know what she was thinking. And clearly she was guilty because she wouldn't come back.
Was she on drugs or something? Like, what is she? I don't even understand what a person's thinking in this situation.
I don't know. She was pretty young in her early 20s. And it's just like, what are you doing? Your whole life is ruined because of this. And if you didn't think that you could take care of the child, I'm sure there was a family more than willing to take the child in. Like,
Just think about a 16-month-old baby is just really starting to walk around, and the dangers that could have happened. Like, Jesus, I can't even think about that. But that kid can't feed themselves, like anything. Obviously had a diaper on when she left, and ripped it off himself because there was poop all over the place and stuff, but he had rash because he had the diaper on for an extended period of time with all that stuff. I mean, it's just like the saddest thing ever. And just think about the cops that are walking into that situation. They could tell that the house was staged for a child to be like semi-protected in there. Like, imagine just showing up and seeing all the doors shut and some food thrown on the couch for the, like,
no, I mean,
it's so sad. It's just so sad.
So obviously the child's been put into Child Protective Services because what are you going to do? You certainly can't give a kid back to a person that's comfortable leaving them.
No, I mean, I don't even know if the kid should ever go back to this lady. Is she, you know what I mean?
And let's say, for argument's sake, that she really did think that the kid was being cared for by, like, let's say this alleged babysitter did come over and she left when the babysitter was there, and then the babysitter did this. Even when they call you and they tell you what's happening to your kid, you're just like, well, that's your problem. Like,
Yeah.
no matter.
The
if
only
the
thing I
babysitter
could think is
involved or not.
that she's either severely mentally ill or that she's on drugs or something. I just can't imagine how the dude thinks that she's on the date with. Like, what would you think if you?
He might not know or care. He might have not even existed. Like, you just don't
Yeah.
even know what's going on over there. So, all right. In Georgia, this 10-year-old boy was walking to a store less than a mile from his house. Apparently, these, people living nearby saw the boy walking, called police, asked for them to check on him. He said that his mother was taking his other sibling to a doctor's appointment, and he was just walking to the store. Didn't see the big deal. And then they go to the house and arrest the mom for child endangerment.
I'm not understanding fully what's happening with this story. Like, is that it?
So on the surface level, what we know that appears to be it, and the mother is out on bail right now, but she is possibly facing jail time, and she's saying, and you can also see it in the body cam footage too, that she is extremely confused when she's being arrested, and she didn't even know what she was being arrested for. And I think at some point she says, I didn't think it was illegal for a child to walk to the store, and then the cop says it is when they're 10.
Is it? Because my kids walk to the store. Like,
well, so I looked this up. So
I just don't know. It's just nuts.
So the Georgia Division of Family and Children Services says that children aged 9 to 12 can be left alone for brief periods of time, which is less than 2 hours, depending on their maturity level. I don't know who's determining that. So I don't know if that just means alone in the house or alone to do whatever they want for 2 hours, but New Jersey doesn't specify. It's up to the family, and New Jersey will only step in if they think a child's being abused or neglected or they're in harm's way.
I just don't understand this at all. I mean, kids And I'm not like a huge person. Like I let my kids walk up here and back and they have to, there's like all these rules and stuff like that. They're not just like roaming the neighborhood, but there certainly are lots of children in my neighborhood that are roaming the neighborhood. We just live in a town that you could walk in. I see kids around all the time. I would never even think to call the cops because you're just assuming they're walking from their friend's house or to their parents' house or to school or something. It's just, that's why I just don't understand what's going on. A 10-year-old?
It seems like a lot of people feel the same way as you, but then of course there's a lot of people that are like, I would never do it because my kid could get hit by a car or taken by somebody, and obviously that could be a concern, but
Was the kid like walking on a highway?
There's no clarity in that for me.
Or some weird, like a place that there shouldn't be any pedestrians walking, that the kid was in danger?
I don't know. It just seems, I agree with you. It just seems bizarre. Like this he also turned 11 right after his mom got arrested. So he was basically 11 when this happened, which I don't know. I mean, I feel like I walked home from school starting around that age. So
my school doesn't have buses. Every child either gets picked up or walks home from school.
Most schools in our area, because the towns are so small, don't have buses.
It's so weird.
I just
feel like there has to be more to this story. I mean, I know, like when I don't want to think about when I was a kid, because when I was a kid, it was just like, okay, you came home from school and you reported back when it got dark out, and we could have been a whole town over and nobody would have known where we were. That was like my life growing up. And now I know people are a little bit more, they're on top of their kids. They don't want their kids just like roaming the neighborhood and this and that. But like people still do it all the time. You're supposed to let your kids, that's how they get freedom and stuff, is to start letting them do things by themselves.
If I saw like a 5-year-old walking around alone, that's a different story. But you have a 10-year-old that knows how to, fully talk and be a person. So
I understand that it's up to the person. Like I have friends in between. I always feel like I'm a pretty middle of the road person for everything, but I have friends that like they don't really care what their kids do, and then I have friends that don't let their children out of the door. You know what I mean? There's a variation, but if you're one of those people that don't let your kids out of the door, just respect that other people do. I don't know. I feel like something else is going to come out about this because it just seems scary, especially weren't they in Georgia or something?
Yeah, they were in Georgia. I'm wondering,
is it like more rural there? Like,
I'm not sure. I'm wondering if it was a case where maybe they picked the kid up and he said something else that was going on in their house.
Yeah.
I don't really know. You just don't really know, because to me, I agree with you. This seems like there's more to the story that we don't know about. So many children this age do it. It's not a one-off situation.
Okay, medical news.
So this lady went on a trip to Turkey and decided while she was there she was going to get a tattoo. And after the tattooer did the outline, she said she started feeling like she was going to pass out. Eventually, she said she couldn't really see anything and she threw up, but the tattooer was just telling her that, maybe her blood sugar was low. So the next day she woke up and her leg was swollen, twice the size as normal. She said it was red, raw, and looked like there was blisters on my tattoo. There was fluid behind it, which then turned out to be this bacterial infection.
So the whole point of this article is that she's saying to, quote, check the tattooer's credentials. Like,
do your research.
Are there credentials to being a tattooer?
I'm assuming, well, I don't know in Turkey, but I think here, do you not have to be licensed in some type of way?
I don't think so. Do you?
I feel like you have to. I don't think you can just do it. It's like when you're a barber or hairdresser, you have to be licensed.
I don't think so.
You'd certainly have to be licensed in every state if you're
cut
legally,
hair.
Yeah, to cut hair.
But I don't know about the tattooing situation.
Well, I'm sure my friends that are tattooers will chime in after that. I never.
When have you ever heard of any tattooer going for licensure and taking a test and shit? I've never heard that.
I just can't imagine that you can't, working with, you're working with bodily fluids. I just can't imagine you could just roll up and do it.
Yeah, I think that's like, anyway, whatever. It seems she got cellulitis, which is an infection that's kind of not on the skin. It's deeper in the skin and in the underlying soft tissue. But you have to think about it. A tattoo is a needle that you're or a set of needles that you're puncturing whatever's on the surface of that needle deep into your tissue. the medical people that were treating this woman said that it appears that the tattooer went too deep. So when you get tattooed, it's only supposed to go through the top layer of the skin, the epidermis, and just like a millimeter or a millimeter and a half into the top layer or the dermis of the skin. If you push it, and you could push it way further down, and then it could go into the deep soft tissue, but not only are you going to screw the tattoo up, it could blow out, it could make the ink kind of bleed underneath the skin, and it raises the risk for infection, but you also are reaching blood vessels under there, so then you're kind of placing any bacteria or anything that's right on the skin, like directly into your vascular system, and it's just going to be able to easily bring bacteria all over your body.
And the tattoo shop was contacted and they said she had an infection because she put a sock on immediately after getting it done in the shop, and they have her on camera doing that. They also said that she wasn't feeling well and they kept checking with her and she kept maintaining that she was okay. So I don't know.
She did say something in the article about saying that she felt like she was going to pass out, and something about blood sugar. So this is like a really important note. If you have diabetes, for sure, it's just a really bad idea to create a wound on your leg if you have poor circulation and you have uncontrolled blood sugars and stuff like that. So they didn't say anything about that, but they did say something about blood sugar. So like this could just potentially be not the tattooer's fault at all if she does have an underlying health condition that would prevent it from healing properly.
Yeah, and I guess at first it was getting so bad that they were potentially telling her that she might have to get her foot amputated, but they ended up working it out and she's fine. So
it probably looks like shit though.
No, the pictures of the infected tattoo look disgusting. I was shivering thinking about it, because when you have a tattoo and it's healing, it's already gross, and to think you have an infection on top of that is just nasty.
Well, check your credentials.
All right, well, last Tuesday, or I guess the other day, we talked about winter penis. So now we have some tips on how to winterproof your vagina this holiday season.
There's a legit article talking about winterproofing your vagina. And it's just talking about how the season could be very cold and dry, and how you should keep yourself healthy both inside and out to prevent yourself from getting any kind of infections down there or anything. So one of the biggest things they bring up is at holiday parties that a lot of times people are eating a lot of high sugary foods and also drinking alcohol, which could really harbor bacteria growth, increase bacteria growth, especially if you are diabetic. You're at an increased risk for yeast infections. So that could happen if you're drinking a lot and you're eating a lot of sugary foods and things like that. I don't know. I never really thought of, I'm going to turn the faucet off outside so it doesn't freeze, winterproofing that. I never thought of winterproofing my vagina, but I guess in theory it makes sense because you just want to make sure that with it being so dry and stuff, you want to make sure you stay hydrated because you don't want to throw the pH of your vag off or your vulva, and then you could have an overgrowth, which is called bacterial vaginosis, which could lead to kind of a foul smell, itching, and stuff like that. So just make sure you winterize your vagina.
Yeah, it also brought up the point that a lot of people during this time of year do like long hot baths, and that, sitting in those for long periods of time, or added these like bath bombs that have all these artificial perfumes, and it could also disrupt your natural pH balance and cause issues. They're also suggesting that you should wear breathable all cotton underwear so you don't have extra moisture buildup. So I guess what's the lesson we're learning? Stay hydrated. Let your vagina breathe.
I just thought this was just good tips all around. This is what you always hear about, like not getting yeast infections and stuff. I never really thought about it being a specific thing to winter, but
no. But it says experts
it makes sense.
Experts recommend choosing natural underwear, cutting down on perfume products, balancing your diet, and hydrating to keep your system happy through the cold, dark season. So keep your vaginas healthy out there. All right, let's move on to the story out of the UK. So this young couple had a baby, and afterwards they submitted their child's birth certificate to the registration office, but they didn't notice until after that the child's gender was listed incorrectly.
Yeah, so the family went to them and said, hey, you listed their gender incorrectly, and they just were like, yeah, we can't change it. We're going to put a little note in the margin.
And it was seemingly like they submitted it, were walking out, realized the mistake, turned right around and said, hey, we just noticed this error. And they're like, too late. You already gave it to us. And they're just like, no, we're not fixing it. So
that's going to cause the kid problems. And this is in the UK, right?
in England, yeah.
So I feel like in America, though, that could cause serious problems. I guess they were saying that the little margin notes are overlooked often, and that could be an issue when you're talking about like getting driver's licenses and passports and things like that. That could be like, why can't they just change it? It's just
Well, apparently another family had an issue with this too about, I think, a year beforehand, and they were able to fix it. And then the agency is saying this is no longer a fix. So you can't do that anymore. Which, why can't you just do it? I mean, if you have all the proof you need and if you literally just turned it in, they should give you like a 24 to 48 hour window.
Why did they turn it in with the wrong sex?
Apparently it was an error at the hospital. I don't know who generates them. Is it a nurse or is like who makes the birth certificate at the hospital?
I don't know, honestly.
Whoever filled it out at the hospital put the wrong one by accident, and they said because of having a newborn and barely sleeping and just being super sleep deprived raising this baby, they just didn't notice it. They were like, we checked the spelling of her name and all of that, but we just didn't even think to look at it. And that's what happened to the other couple too. They said that when they looked over the paperwork, they were really just focusing on making sure their names were all spelled correctly. They just didn't even think to look at the gender.
I'm curious if any of you guys have ever had a misspelling or something weird on your birth certificate and if it gave you problems throughout your life.
I feel like this is really reminding me of when I went to Social Security to change my name. I think it really depends on the person you have working that day, because when I, went to go change my name legally, I really wanted to make my maiden name my middle name, and the lady was just like, you can't do that. And it took me a long time to get the appointment. I had to wait there for a few hours, and I was like, I don't care anymore. I just want this to be over with. But then everybody else I talked to was like, that's not right. So I don't know if eventually I'll go back and try to fix it, but
I don't know what the rules are as far as that, but I would say that you don't think that she's probably right. I feel like you can't just like go to Social Security and be like, you know what, I'm changing my name now.
No, but if you have all the correct forms, like when I had the form that I was married and changing my last name because I was married and I wanted to shift my middle name to my maiden name to my middle name, and instead of just being like, it doesn't work like that, like you need another form or you have to make a different kind of appointment, she just said, we don't do that here. And I'm like, okay, well, I just want this to be over with. So that's where we land on that. So I could see, that whoever working that day just either being lazy or a Karen and just being like, I'm not doing this.
Yeah.
So.
I don't know. All right. Other death news.
All right, so in Georgia, this photographer had gone to this abandoned funeral home that burned down earlier this year. He was planning to take pictures of the abandoned building, and when he was in there, he came across human remains, ashes, bills, and more.
So I asked Gabe about this question, actually, because this made me think about a whole bunch of other stuff. So he went in this building that was burned down, but the part of the building that they're showing looks like it probably had water damage from the fire, but not like everything wasn't charred and like you would think if you're looking inside a building that was caught on fire. And not only did he find those things, which I don't think that necessarily some of those things that he found are weird to find in a funeral home, like urns filled with ashes and stuff like that.
No.
And really, like, if they found fetuses, I mean, we had funeral directors come pick up fetuses from the morgue all the time. So because some people get burials and cremations for them. So I don't know like what the deal is with that. It's kind of more concerning that there were bank statements and there were of people, there were actual like financial statements of people that had funerals with like critical information on it, like credit card numbers and addresses and all those different things. And that's why I asked Gabe, I was just like, if there's ever a situation, let's say for an example, like a doctor's office catches on fire and it has people's personal information in it, what's the level of like security for that? Because when you board up a building, like that's what happens. People break in and they steal stuff or they take pictures or they do whatever, like, right?
Well, I guess the problem is he was saying that he had photographed other funeral homes before that were in similar states, and he definitely had come across urns or ashes before. But I guess the amount, he said he found 30 urns filled with human ashes, so that's kind of a lot. And then, yeah, you have all this private information. Apparently, this building was up for foreclosure auction before it caught on fire. I don't know what the process is between that. If clearly they were struggling with their business and closing it down, but does that mean you just leave everything inside? I know that a
Well,
lot of abandoned buildings tend to have stuff
but even if
left
it was in
like this.
foreclosure, they could have still been occupying it, right? Or wait,
Possibly. I mean,
I don't know how that works.
I don't
but-
know how it works when it's going up for sale. I'm thinking of this documentary I watched about one of those detention schools that, you know, they would send the bad kids to.
Mm-hmm.
And the kids making, well, they were adults now, but they had gone there as children. But the adults making the documentary went in the school and found all the cabinets filled with paperwork of every student that had gone there. The building had been abandoned for years.
Yeah, I mean that's what I was thinking. But he said that sometimes if it's like sometimes the building could have it boarded up and then hire someone to actually guard it while they're doing the investigation and stuff. But I guess he was saying if there's like really important information, they should be able to that should all be locked up anyway, maybe. Because think about like people could break in anytime.
It should be locked up, or whoever is foreseeing the foreclosure should be identifying that these are sensitive documents, or maybe just nobody cares. I don't know.
So, I mean, I guess, so this photographer saying he found this stuff, but that we didn't really get any kind of, I'm assuming that they're going to send it to a medical examiner's office or something and try to get it back to the people that it belongs to. What happened was the people maybe didn't pay for their cremation and then never picked up the remains. It doesn't necessarily have to be something shady. I mean, I'm sure it could be, but
Yeah, I guess the police said where they're leaving it is they're going to try to investigate why everything was left in there. And I guess they must have a process if a building goes in foreclosure with everything still in it. What happens to all the materials? I would think the records would either get burned or stored somewhere else. I don't know what they're going to do with human remains. I would assume, like we talked about with other unclaimed people, they would go to the medical examiner for a brief period of time and then be put in a mass grave. I don't really know.
yeah.
All right, let's move on to questions of the day. Every Friday at the @MotherKnowsDeath Instagram account, we put a story up and you guys can ask us whatever question you want. Were you fascinated with death as a kid?
No, I don't think so. Well, I mean, to what extent? Like everyone has some curiosity, but I wasn't like,
Like, were you watching true crime like I was when I was a little kid with you, or?
I don't really know if there was anything. I'm trying to think of like what was there out there that was like that. There was always like 2020 with Barbara Walters, like stuff like that. But there wasn't. I don't really think there was true crime shows like that too much out there when I was younger.
No, because I
but
guess
no,
when
I
you were
didn't
pregnant
really.
with me, it was OJ, so that was kind of like the first really sensationalized thing, right?
Yeah, but I was already a teenager by that point. But I mean, yeah, like of course I was into OJ, but like everyone was. I don't think I had a specific. I was more interested in. I was talking about this in a post I wrote in the gross room the other day about. I was talking about this acne drug called Accutane and what damage it would do to you if you were taking it when you got pregnant and showing some photographs of that. And I was thinking about that because one of my friends growing up that I'm still friends with today, she used to take it when we were teenagers. And I remember her showing me the pamphlets and saying like, this is so crazy. They have me on birth control and I got to take a pregnancy test every month. And they just really keep emphasizing they don't want me to get pregnant. And she showed me this pamphlet that said, you know, don't get pregnant, with all these drawings of all the different things that could happen to the fetus if it was exposed to the drug. And I remember being like, oh my God, I want to see what this looks like so bad. Like in real life, I don't want to see a drawing of it. So stuff like that, for sure. Just like really interested in different things like that. And even when I went to hair school for a little bit and we were learning about all these crazy diseases you could get for your skin and your hair and your nails and stuff, they don't show any photos of it. And I'm like, oh my God, like, what does that look like? And this was before Google was a thing that I could just like go home and look at it. So that kind of stuff always interests me, I guess.
All right. Do you collect any specimens from animals?
I have a couple, I guess. I have like a 2-headed pig or something like that, a couple wet specimens like that, and then I have a bunch of taxidermy, but not a lot, but I have stuff. Yeah. I mean, I have some cool stuff.
On Real Housewives of Salt Lake City last night, they were at some like hat shop, and this lady had a raccoon penis bone on her hat.
Oh, yeah.
Didn't you used to have a couple of those?
Yeah, they're like silly. They're just like easy. They're like basic starter taxidermy items.
Yeah.
Penis bones from a raccoon. They're called baculum bones. Every animal doesn't have them. Obviously, humans don't have them. I think whales have them too, and they're like huge. But they're a little interesting thing. But if you go to any taxidermy place, they sell them at the counter where you pay. They're just like
they're just super common.
They're just like getting like a pen with a dinosaur at the dinosaur museum or something. Like they're just like a dime a dozen.
All right, last. What day is more fun in our family, Christmas Day or Christmas Eve?
I don't know. It just depends, I guess.
We just have a lot going on. Like, I host so many people at my house on Christmas Eve, so I feel like there's just, a lot happening all day, me getting my house ready, cooking, everything, and then everybody comes over, and then it's just, like, chaotic. And then right when that's done, I go to your house to help you set up for the kids, and then we barely sleep, with the exception of last year, which we already said we got plenty of sleep because we were done so early. And then Christmas morning, we have breakfast.
I like Christmas morning, yeah, because the kids are little, so watching them open their presents and stuff is always. Of course, I always feel like I'm like hungover or something because I'm so tired. But
nothing's better.
I mean, that's like the whole part for me is just watching the little kids open the presents.
Nothing's better than the post-Christmas breakfast nap every year. That's the high of my day. No. Yeah, I like both, I feel like, but yeah, there is something really special about watching them open all their presents, and I know we'll continue that on when I have kids too, and it'll just like be this fun cycle that we always have every Christmas morning. So I like both, but I'd probably say Christmas Day morning is my favorite too.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, that is it. Don't forget to submit your shocking story to stories@motherknowsdeath.com. If you have any fun Thanksgiving tales, we would love to hear those as well, so you could submit them to the same email.
See ya, guys, next week. Have a good weekend.
Thank you for listening to Mother Knows Death. As a reminder, my training is as a pathologist assistant. I have a master's level education and specialize in anatomy and pathology education. I am not a doctor, and I have not diagnosed or treated anyone, dead or alive, without the assistance of a licensed medical doctor. This show, my website, and social media accounts are designed to educate and inform people based on my experience working in pathology so they can make healthier decisions regarding their life and well-being. Always remember that science is changing every day, and the opinions expressed in this episode are based on my knowledge of those subjects at the time of publication. If you are having a medical problem, have a medical question, or are having a medical emergency, please contact your physician or visit an urgent care center, emergency room, or hospital. Please rate, review, and subscribe to Mother Knows Death on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or anywhere you get podcasts. Thanks.